Hey, I'm April, and this is Bitch Bet Podcast. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back or welcome to the podcast. I hope everybody had a good month, and if your month was not so great, then I hope your next one is better. So I have an exciting little treat for everybody that's tuning into this episode. We have our first guest on the podcast today. She is a good friend of mine. She's an extremely talented artist, and I could just talk to her all day long. She is currently working on her third chapter comic book for the Oasis Fallen series, and she is the lovely, incredible Lady Eagle.
Thank you for the awesome introduction, April.
You make it easy.
I don't know what I like more, that intro or the fact that you just called me a treat, but I'm digging it. I love it. Thank you.
Of course. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. We've been planning this for the last 2 months. I was almost going to have her on last month, but then scheduling ended up not working out. So we ended up doing her episode this month, and I've just been so excited. We've been chit-chatting the past 2 months about this, and it's finally, I'm excited that it's finally happening.
It's happening. It's happening.
Oh my God, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. That was such a good episode.
It was. I'm obsessed with The Office, and if I make multiple, if not hundreds of references to The Office tonight, I'm not going to apologize. I love it.
I don't need you to, nor was I going to ever ask you to.
Michael Scott is my spirit animal, so.
And we love that.
Yes.
Okay, so one of the things that made me want to have you on the podcast was obviously your art. I follow you on Instagram, and I'm also part of your Patreon, which I will definitely link all that below for everybody that's listening and wants to check out her fabulous drawings. But you're just so incredibly talented, and I just wanted to talk more about you and your art and your journey to how you got to this grand project of the Oasis Fallen. If I messed that up, I'm so sorry, Natalie. I'm trying.
You're doing great. Even if you mispronounced it, I wouldn't say anything. It's fine.
I know, but I feel bad because I look at the word and I want it. My mind goes, it's Oasis, and I go, no, it's not, because there's an apostrophe before the second S, so it's not Oasis.
But you get it. It's the concept. You got it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I have a little note that says Oasis.
Yeah.
So I can remember it.
It's officially Oasis. You're right. You're doing
Oasis. And I just wanted to know more about how that project came to be. What do you really like about the project? And just kind of see how art kind of helps you with your own journey in your life.
Well, I want to say thank you for calling me talented, first of all. I don't always feel that way. So when I answer your questions, I don't always know how to take compliments very well. I'm horrible at it. Like I said before, if someone's showering me with compliments, I would rather take a sledgehammer to my shins. Okay. So I will try to accept the compliments and
accept them, damn it. Just let me love you, okay?
Wait. Damn it, let's do this.
All right. So, what kind of got you into art? Were you always an artistic person, or did you just wake up one day and was like, I'm just going to be the next Van Gogh?
So I'm pretty sure, like, when God made me, he just, like, accidentally tipped the art bucket just on top of whatever was going on there. I've been drawing ever since I could pick up utensils. So ever since I could pick up crayons and paper, I was coloring, drawing. I've always loved to do it. And so the parents that I have awesome parents. They saw that I really like to do that. So they just continued to fuel my obsession with drawing by always handing me paper and crayons and pencils and whatnot, and paints. I've done it all. I feel like
we love supportive parents. That's great.
Not all of us have them, so I do want to say, like, I have fantastic parents, and I know that that is a blessing, and not everybody has that. So I do want to say, like, I'm extremely grateful for my parents, and it is why I, in the beginning of my books, thank them, is because I wouldn't be where I am or have the passion that I do if they weren't supporting me throughout my whole life.
That's so awesome. And you mentioned that you tried basically everything. So, what drew you to comics specifically? Because I know your books are comic books. So, what drew you to that?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, I grew up a tomboy, so I was always
Same.
interested in in like action and outdoor stuff more. I played in the mud. I had an older brother, and a lot of the times it was just me and him to entertain each other. And we would be outside a lot. We enjoyed a lot of the same interests, sports, animals, all that fun stuff. And so my interests were already there. So I drew a lot of animals, a lot of outdoor stuff. And then with my comics, I really liked action and humor. So I would kind of do both. I would try to draw realistic animals because I really like animals. And then I liked to make people laugh. So I also like to do comics. And I had been doing both of those things ever since, I was young, ever since I had relationships with people. I loved to make my friends laugh. I could remember when I was like in grade school, I would draw things to make my friends laugh. And that's never changed. I've continued to do that as I've gotten older, making the people around me. I just like to make people smile with my art.
You definitely do that with me all the time, every day.
Oh, yay. Yay. But that's the goal. That's what I really like to do. And with the realism side of it, I did do some realism. Actually did that clear up into adulthood, and I had a business doing that. I did a lot of portraits for people. I went to a lot of art shows. But I kind of moved away from that because honestly, it wasn't as fulfilling as drawing cartoons. I guess I'm a child. Mm-hmm. So
you're just feeding your inner child. We love it.
Yeah. I'd like to have fun. And honestly, like the fun aspect just pulled me over to the comic side. I was like, nah. And just movement and motion. I really like drawing things in action. So I just got sucked into it, I guess. I just like it a lot more.
That's awesome. So moving on to your most current project, which is the Oasis Fallen series. So what ended up starting that project? Was it just a thought that you had, or was it just something that you've been milling over for quite a while? How did that whole story come to be?
Well, it kind of started, I like to write too. That's a piece of it, of my creative side. I always like writing. But my husband loves to read. And years ago, he asked me to write him a story. I was like, well, that sounds fun. He really likes to read and I really like to write. So I wrote him.
Match made in heaven.
Exactly. I wrote him a fantasy story. He likes fantasy. I like fantasy. I typically like more of the sci-fi stuff, whereas he I don't know if he likes medieval stuff more than sci-fi stuff, but he really likes both.
Interesting.
But since it's sci-fi, I was like, I'm all about sci-fi. I can write good sci-fi. I love the big stompy robots, so that's what I decided to do for him. I wrote him a war fantasy story with big robots in them, also called mechs, depending on how you like to say things. And he ended up loving this short story so much that he asked me to actually write a whole book about it. And I've tried writing whole books before, and I've never been able to finish them. However, I have drawn lots of comics before, and I was like, hey, I could probably make a graphic novel about this. And when I mentioned that to him, saying, hey, I can actually do a graphic novel, he was just like down. He's like, yes, absolutely. Visuals, yes, all the way. He loves comics.
Checks all the boxes. Yes.
He was very excited about that. And the fact that he got so excited about it and wanted to like know more about the lore and these worlds and everything, just that I even shortly mentioned in this little short story that I wrote him, I just alluded to, this massive lore, somewhere in the background. And he just, that like sucked him in. And he was like, I need to know about this planet, these people, are there other war machines? Like what is happening? And so I created the whole world for him. And the fact that he was excited about it just got me more excited about it. And yeah, it kind of snowballed from there.
That's awesome. And so just to give like a really brief synopsis of the story, I know it's two opposing moons colonies, correct?
Correct. So it takes place thousands of years into the future. It's supposed to be people from Earth eventually found these other galaxies with a few hospitable worlds. One of them being a planetary system that, yes, has two different moons that are habitable,
Hmm.
and these moons end up going to war. And my characters, or the plot, is about these two characters from the opposing moons.
That's so cool. So when it came to writing or creating your characters, did you get influenced by like the people in your lives or different characters like a Michael Scott, for example? Did you pull from outside sources or were you once he like opened Pandora's box, basically your husband, were you just like this is everything that it's going to be and this is who it this is and this is they're going to fall in love with this person and this is going to be the best friend and how did the characters come into play?
Michael Scott, 100%. He's the GOAT.
I knew it. I knew it.
Yeah, great question. And I've actually got that question a lot. I actually get, is Raina you? I'm like, no. I would love to be Raina, but she's a lot cooler than I am.
She is pretty cool. She's a bad bitch.
She is a bad bitch. Yeah, I get asked those questions like, do these people represent people in your life? And honestly, when I was writing, no, I wanted to write about people that I have read about from actual history. I'm a huge World War II junkie.
Same.
I like studying all the wars, but World War II in particular, I find very interesting. And I've read a lot of war hero stories, and there are some incredible people that existed. And seeing like their personalities, you have some great writers that captured who these people were. They, went to their friends and asked their friends to talk about them, what their personalities were like, what did they go through, how did the war affect their families, how did they behave before and afterward. The psychological aspect of it is very fascinating to me as well, and has actually helped me get through a lot of stuff in my life because I see these people that I read about and I'm like, if they can get through that and the horrors that they have seen, like I can get through whatever this life is going to throw me.
Yeah, that's such an interesting perspective to have because once you put your like specifically like for World War II, when I was in I think middle school, I went to the Museum of Tolerance and we got to hear from Holocaust survivors and like about their experiences and like all that stuff. And when you put it like that, like if they can literally go through the Holocaust, horrible thing should have never happened to begin with and it should never happen again. But if they can survive that gruesome, horrible time, I can get through a shitty day at work. It just brings a lot of things into perspective. Like, hey, you could be fighting for your life right now. Instead, you're just mad about some bullshit policy at work.
Exactly. That's a great aspect and a great take on it. That's how I feel. And I have met some people as well that I consider to be outstanding people. They may not have been World War II heroes, but I have met a lot of veterans. A lot of people in my life personally have done really miraculous things or have worked with really miraculous people. I have a lot of firefighters in my family, and I look up to those people. Those are my heroes. And so that's who I like to write about. My characters are based on not necessarily one person, but characteristics that I see a lot of heroes that I've read about or know personally share. And
that's awesome.
People like reading about those characters. I like writing about people you want to aspire to be like. Yeah, you don't want to write them perfect because
we're not perfect.
Exactly. Like you want to relate to somebody. You can't relate to like a robot or someone that has no flaws. So I do like to sprinkle my characters with flaws that make sense for their personalities and also flaws that I've read about with personalities. So yeah, that's what I try to do. If I want to stay true to a person's character, obviously I haven't read about all these, famous war heroes. I don't read about them in the situations that I write my characters in. So I do have to use my imagination. I have to use what I've studied about psychology and different characters, different personalities, how they would behave. And yes, there's some personal experience as well. So you kind of have to grab a little bit of everything, and voila, you have your characters.
And boom, bam, you have a story. There you go.
Boom, bam, there it is. Michael Scott.
So I have read graphic novels, and I thoroughly enjoyed them, but I just don't find myself always drawn to them. I'm more of just the traditional no pictures book reader, the boring kind. But I want to know kind of how your process for creating your books is. Like, do you know when the story's going to cut off for a chapter, or do you have to have the whole thing planned out and then you're like, okay, for this amount of pages, it'll be this, and that's one book? And how does that process kind of work?
That's the cool thing, I guess, about living in this day and age is there's a lot of different ways you can make a book. And I probably do it completely different, or maybe a little bit different than, indie over here, indie over there does it,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how Marvel does it. However, I have, studied and watched other Marvel or DC comic artists do their thing. But that is traditional. So it does depend if you want to make a traditional graphic novel where it's somebody inking, like actually using physical medium, or if it's someone like myself who's doing digital art, the process is going to look different for both of those. And then do you want to do a webtoon graphic novel where you can read it online, or do you want to do a book, or do you want to do both? So my process will be, as I said, a little bit different than maybe what other people do.
Right.
I usually start off just actually writing a script, kind of like a story or a movie script is what I do.
Okay.
And then I storyboard my movie script, and the storyboard can kind of differ greatly from the script that I start out with, because you're basically going from like describing something or dialogue to putting it on paper where people are watching something happen, and you need to get your angles right, aspect right. And maybe there's some dialogue that doesn't belong. Maybe it's redundant. Maybe you don't need it because then you're showing what's happening. So it does change. My script does kind of change. And then after I storyboard it, I go and I ink it digitally and I color it. And then I'll upload it to the website that I use to print my book. And so that's pretty much how, in a short little format, of how I make my comic books.
And then how do you decide the different chapters and how long the books are going to be?
I just kind of wing it. I do take some advice from my husband, because he really likes comics, and he's basically my consumer. So he's my editor and consumer. So he's like who I'm wanting to sell to. He's my base. So I run everything by him. I ask him, does this make sense? Like, does how I've laid this comic out, is it readable? Can you tell what's happening? Do I need to change something? And he'll let me know if I need to change something or add something in. And then he advises me on how long the chapter should be, when I should cut it, when I should add my my flashbacks in there. And he also helped me find my website to print my books on. So I definitely couldn't do all of this without him. He's like my muse, if I should use the right terminology there. He's my Michael Scott. And he's helped me be successful and actually get my books printed and everything. So yeah.
That's so cool. And so I mentioned earlier that you're currently working on your chapter 3, so your third book for the Oasis Fallen series. What can we kind of expect from this book that you're working on?
Chapter 3 or book 3, I published my books in individual chapters right now, because the novel is going to be very, very long.
It'd be like one of those memes where it's like a book like as tall as a desk, and you just flip it over, and it's just like this one page.
Exactly. So the third chapter of the third book is going to be even longer than the second. Have kind of progressively made them a little bit longer and longer, and I'm excited because the third chapter is actually going to show the war that's going on. You get to see Oasis, this moon. You get to see the bad guys. You get to see how the people have built their cities and everything. Totally different landscape from Earth in a lot of ways. Lots of canyons. People have built their cities into the canyon walls. Of course, you have your big war machines fighting, and that's basically the first half of the book. And then the second half of the book, or third chapter, I should say, will pick back up where the second one left off, where it goes back to our two main characters, Levin and Reyna. So that is what to expect from chapter 3.
That's awesome. Do you ever find it challenging when you have to draw these different environments you haven't been drawing with before, like in books 1 and 2?
You know, I was super intimidated at first because I could see it in my head clearly, right? You can always envision stuff. It's getting your hands to actually
do the thing.
Yeah, so I'm like barking at my hands, draw, do it.
Get a little whip for it.
Oh, geez. Don't distract me now.
Sorry. Forgive me.
You brought out the whips. All right. So can't do that. All right. So it can definitely be intimidating when you think about what all you need to draw, especially drawing big war scenes like what's going on in chapter 3. Luckily, I already kind of did some of what I'm going to be doing in chapter 1, where I have to draw my mechs from different angles. So I had that nailed down. The environment, however, I was just like, all right, let's try to do this. I got some canyon reference photos, and I was just like, okay, these are how rocks look. These are how cities built into canyons look. I mean, you already have other civilizations on Earth that have kind of done that, where they've built some structures into walls and cave systems. And so I kind of pulled a little bit from that as well, because I mean, hey, these are humans on this moon. So you're going to see, some
kind of the same things.
Yeah, exactly. But once we started doing it, it actually it felt natural. And I'm actually very happy with the first few pages that I've done so far of the landscapes and everything, the perspective. Thank God I trained myself to draw perspective. You don't have to go to school for that, people. You can just practice. There's grids that you can download. Just practice. Draw your blocks. Draw your circles. Okay. And it came together. It actually felt good, and I didn't have to scrap stuff or anything. I didn't need to freak out about it.
That's always how it happens. You have your little mini meltdown, and then you start doing. You're like, oh, okay, it's not that bad. Just kidding.
Yeah, it's okay. Just breathe. It's gonna be okay.
Just breathe through it. Everything's gonna be okay. So I know you've been working on your books for quite some time, but if you could but if there was one thing you wish you knew when you started, what would it be?
I guess that, not freak out about what you have to do. Just do it. What's his face? Shia LaBeouf. Just do it.
Just make your dreams come true.
That is the advice. Just do it. And
solid word slip by.
Exactly. The more you just put your head down and just decide to do something without overthinking it or fretting about it, that's when you start to succeed, because you're doing. So if I could take that advice, I mean, that's what I would do. Because my dad always told me, you don't have to do this. You get to do it.
Oh, so good.
About everything. You don't have to clean your room. You get to clean your room.
Okay, but it's kind of hard to make it make sense with chores. You're like, but I don't want to do chores. But you just said, some people don't have room. Some people don't get to do this. Some people, have to do a bunch of other things that you don't have to do. So I guess once you start thinking about it, you're like, okay, it makes sense. I get the point.
Well, I want to bring up my webtoon aspect. I'm making books right now, but the webtoon aspect was something that while I was making the books, a lot of my fans were requesting, like, make a webtoon, like, make more of your silly little bits that you do. And when I started changing my outlook on it, that, oh, they want more, so I have to draw more. No, you get to draw more. Like, people really like these. Like,
Yeah.
You have something to give people that they want. That's exciting. And I was like, you're right, my silly little self. Like, people want this. Like, just figure out how to do it and do it. Figure out how to make a webtoon. Like, surely we must have something that would help us, like Google, or, a search engine of some kind on the interwebs that would help us.
If only there was something that we could do.
Exactly. And so I was like, well, you know what? It can't be that hard. Like, I'm pretty dull sometimes, but I figure I could do this. And you know what? I did it. And then it's been super rewarding. People love the silly little comics. And if I can just make a few people happy, it was totally worth it. Totally worth it.
I do love your silly little comments. When I get a new update from your Patreon, I go, "Ooh, like, what are they doing now?" I get pretty excited about it.
Oh, yay!
And you're so funny, or you make your characters so funny. So it's nice, and you just can draw emotions really well too. So I'm like, oh, she's pissed, she's mad.
Thank you.
Like the one you did the other day that. I don't know all their names, but Raina was pissed, obviously. And the blonde one was trying to help her, and she just like screamed at him and sent him running the other way.
Yeah. The blonde is Digits. He's our
Digits, yes.
Yeah.
He's the one that loves crayons.
Yeah, he does. But thank you. I appreciate that. That is something that I really enjoy, and something I really liked when I was growing up watching cartoons like Disney and DreamWorks especially. I loved how they captured people's emotions, and that's something I really wanted to do. Like, I love facial expressions, absolutely love them, and I love drawing them.
And it shows. It definitely shows. So, do you ever draw or create things that have nothing to do with Oasis Fallen, or is that just the one thing that you're always working on?
Occasionally I will. For instance, on my Patreon, I do have a drawing that I do for my tier 2 patrons where if they win the drawing, I do a sketch for them, and it's any character they want. Any prop they want. If the character has props, like it can be their character, somebody else's character, one of my characters. And I have many of my patrons want something that doesn't have to do with Oasis Fallen, and I'm very happy to do that for them. And so that's where I'll kind of get away from drawing Oasis Fallen stuff. And then occasionally, when I can fit it into my schedule, if my husband needs something, he needs some logos sometimes. He really, really likes... I said I did realism before, and I used to do like realism, but of dragons.
Oh, I've seen your dragons. They're so good.
My husband and I both love dragons too, so I have occasionally stepped away and done some nice dragons for him to put as his background. So yeah, those are the very rare occasions or seldom times that I step away from drawing the Oasis Fallen characters and whatnot.
But you mainly just spend your time drawing your world that you've created, right?
Yeah, I like space.
I like space.
I like space. I like big stompy robots.
And you're very good at drawing them too. And you make it look so easy, because I know I could never replicate, on my best day, I could never replicate even your worst day.
The robots go boom. Sorry, I'm getting Neanderthal brain. I need to... Let's focus.
Reel it in. All right. So since it's only fair, I got to pick your brain. You now have a chance to pick mine.
Oh, goody. Let's go.
Let me turn the interrogation light on.
Yeah, I was just looking for that. And the whip.
Girl, I got 2 on my desk.
Oh, it's perfect. There's two of us.
Yeah.
Ooh, look at that.
It's for this little miniature Lego that my husband likes to build. It's
it's you.
it's I can see the resemblance in a lot of things with what you just said, but it's the I don't know the actual name of it, but it's from Lord of the Rings. It's the
Balrog.
Yeah, it's the giant demon thing that Gandalf is like, "You shall not pass," and
it's fiery and angry.
Yeah, just like
you.
me, just like
it's
me.
Intimidating.
Yeah,
and beautiful.
And he has two little whips.
I thought that guy was so cool. My parents, when I was like little, okay, I'm like aging myself here. I was kind of young when the first Lord of the Rings came out, like, and my parents didn't know.
I was younger than you, so it's okay.
Okay. My parents didn't know how I would handle the Balrog. They thought I could handle like everything else in Lord of the Rings fine, but to be fair, I was afraid, still kind of am, of volcanoes. Okay,
that's a valid thing.
They're menacing. Okay. Volcanoes are menacing. You don't know when they're going to explode.
You don't know how bad it's going to be. You don't know anything.
And the movie Dante's Peak gave me nightmares for life. So my parents were like, Balrog is pretty much like a walking volcano. I don't think this will be okay. However, when I did watch it and I saw the Balrog, I thought he was the coolest piece of fiery ass I'd ever seen. And April, you are totally a Balrog, I will say.
Yeah, because he got I think it was like a 2-thing set where it's Gandalf and Balrog. And when he bought it, I looked at him, I said, "Can I have the demon thing?" And he goes, "Yeah, you can have it." So I was like, "But I want to build it too." Because my husband loves Lego, so he'll build a bunch of stuff, but he'll like be building next to me, and I go, "Well, I want to do it." So then he'll buy me like little things that I can play with while he's doing like the big Legos.
Oh my god, biggest green flags like everywhere.
I know, he's so great. But yeah,
you guys are so adorable. I love you guys.
Oh, thanks. I take most of the credit for
that.
I'm
picturing you guys building Legos together right now, and I'm gonna like freak out.
Okay, so when we were moving, he has all these big Lego sets, and I was like, you need to take those apart because I don't want them to break, and then you lose a piece, and then you can't have these big displays anymore. So he goes, okay. So we had like de-building sessions where he would pick one, I would pick one, and we would just like de-build them and put them in bags, so that way when we moved and got to this new place, we could then build them back together. And because he still has all of his manuals, so he was like, yeah, we could do the great Lego rebuild of 2024 and have like a bunch of people over. But then when we moved and I was looking around, I said, I know you want to do the great rebuild of 2024, and I'm here for that. I love that. However, we don't have enough space for 6 different people to be building these giant Lego things. I said, pieces are going to get mixed. It's going to be a bad time. We don't have enough space. And he looks around, he goes, okay, yeah, you're right. I'll say we can have like one person over at a time and like they can rebuild something, but we can't do like it all at once.
Right. The ambition is there, which is great. We love the ambition.
Oh, I was there for it. I was like, I want this set. I want this set. I want this set. And he was like, okay.
Absolutely.
Like he has the Sanderson sister house. It was like a $300 Lego set, but it's so detailed. Like even inside the house, they have like where Danny is like tied up in front of like the fireplace. They have like skeletons in cages at the top with like spider webs. Like it is so detailed. He's like, okay, I see why this was $300. So I was like, I want to build that, and he was like, okay.
He said, okay. He wasn't like, hell yeah, let's go.
He was like, he's like, okay, if you want that one, you can have it. And I was like, I want that one.
Inside, he was like, hell yeah.
Okay, so totally sidetracked you. Yes.
Yeah, got distracted. You showed me the Balrog, and I got excited because that's like, that's like a spirit animal for real.
Same.
Yeah. Questions for you. I have some big ones. Are you ready for them?
Hit me.
Okay.
Hit me with your best shot.
So, my main one to start with, what made you decide that podcasting was the right fit for your healing journey and creative outlet? I feel like it's a little bit of both, correct? The healing journey and the creative outlet.
Yeah, kind of. I don't even know where this idea came from, but it just popped into my head like almost 3 years ago, where I think it was because my husband started a podcast with his buddy, and I was listening to it, and I was like, I could totally do a podcast. And I was like, I don't know what I would do, what I would call it, and stuff like that. And I just kind of mulled the idea over in my head, and then I got the name, which was Bitch Bet Podcast. That's been the name for this project from the very beginning. I knew I wanted to have the exclamation point instead of the I, because I loved Pink growing up and I liked how she did that. So I was like, I'm gonna give a little nod to her because she is also a bad bitch that I look up to. So I was like, that's a nice little thing to have. And I just kind of, after I had to go through my round 2 of trauma dealing with, I was kind of just like, okay, I can't be the only person that deals with shit. I physically can't be the only person that has a shitty life or a shitty childhood. Well, I don't have a shitty life now, but like a shitty upbringing and, things that happen. I was like, I can't be the only one. So I decided, okay, well, I have a degree in communication. I know I can articulate myself in a way that can send a message. So why not just share my story, and in hopes I help somebody along with theirs. Like, maybe they don't have to do this exact same thing I do, but maybe they could just find some comfort. Like, okay, someone else in this world is going through something or went through something similar to me, and she made it out okay. So I have faith that I can make it out okay too. And it was also just looking within yourself, and I wanted people to kind of figure out their own problems, kind of not by themselves, but for themselves, to really just kind of look within and be like, hey, something's not right here. So what can I do to fix the thing that's not right within myself? And because that was kind of what I had to do, especially with therapy. When I went to therapy, the first, my therapist, I think about her every day. I am so grateful for the time that we spent together. But I think it was the first day, she was like, all I'm here to do is hold up a mirror for you. She goes, you run these sessions. You're the one that makes this, whole thing work. And if we get to something you're not ready to talk about, we're not going to push it. I'm not going to, try and get you to talk about it if you're not ready. But, you have to do the talking, and I'm just here to hold up the perspective mirror. And I was like, oh, shit. So that kind of clicked for me, and I really had to sit with myself a lot of nights and be like, okay, what's wrong? And that's just kind of how I did it. So I wanted to share that message with the world in hopes that somebody somewhere is sitting there being like, something's wrong with me, but I can't figure it out. How can I? Type of thing.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. And we're growing and changing every day, and we're realizing things about ourselves that we didn't realize a week ago. And it kind of shifts everything in our brains sometimes. So you have to look at things differently. So it's not just a one and done thing. Like, oh, I went to therapy. I did it. Haha, I conquered life. It is, okay, I conquered that piece of life until the next piece of life hits me. And then I have to conquer that. And it's just building your toolbox, as my therapist would say, and to know that when something happens, you can go into your toolbox and figure out what you can do to fix it.
That is something I've noticed with your podcast, is that you say very, very profound things that are very insightful, and it's almost like somebody much older than you is saying them. And please take that in a good way. Like, you're very wise. And so that's partly why I enjoy listening to your podcast, is I like listening to wise people. And, as someone who's tried to fix their trauma with humor, listening to you actually, like an adult, handle your problems and actually process them is very refreshing, because I've seen psychologists and therapists throughout my life, and you have good ones and you have really poor ones. The good ones make you think and use your brain to strip apart and process what you've gone through, and then the bad ones just throw medicine at you. They just throw pills at you.
Yeah, and I don't know how I got so lucky with mine. It was She was literally the first therapist I talked to, the first one that I met with. Like, she was my very first, like, anything. And she was just the most amazing human being. And she just really made me think, literally. And I owe a lot to her. And I wish her like, nothing but the best. And I'm sure if she ever stumbles upon this podcast, she'll know who I'm talking about. Because, yeah.
Well, and I can't help, because this was one of my questions too, to trail off of the first one, is, do you feel like you're compelled to help others with similar life struggles or the things you talk about in your podcast? Because I can't help listening to them, that even though you may not outright say it, that may not even be your goal, it's still kind of what's happening. I'm just wondering if it is your goal.
Yeah, kind of in a way. When I finally decided, okay, you're doing this, like, jump in the deep end, there's no turning back now. I kind of had to think to myself, because I was like, anybody could talk about anything. And there are some podcasts that, you know, talk about politics, or some podcasts that talk about Taylor Swift. There's so many podcasts out there that you can talk about anything. So when I was doing Bitch Bat Podcast, I was like, okay, I want to make sure that every conversation that I have matters, because I figured for a lot of it, it was just going to be me talking. And so I didn't want to just randomly ramble about random things that happened in my day, because I'm not a very exciting person. I go to work, I come home, I read, I hang out with my husband. Like, I don't do a lot of things on my day-to-day basis. So I really wanted to challenge myself to be like, okay, what kind of message do you want to put out in the world? What kind of thing do you think somebody else needs to hear? And it also kind of started because before, or maybe after the podcast idea popped into my head, I was like, I could totally be a motivational speaker. Like, I loved Brene Brown. I watched, like, her TED Talks. I watched different specials that she's done. I own a couple of her books. Haven't read them yet, but I own them. I'll get there eventually. But the endless TBR that is readers, so I get it. And I was like, I could totally do that, because I've gone through things that would break other people. Like, I thought about this a couple months ago. I was angry, surprise, surprise to nobody, but I was mad about having to experience the things that I experienced. And I was just, like, so frustrated with it. Like, why did I have to go through these things? Why did these things kind of have to happen to me specifically? And I was like, okay, hold on. If the roles were reversed and those people had what happened to you happen to them, it would have broke them, but it didn't break you. So there you go.
That's a good way to look at it. Like I said, you say things like that a lot, even if it's things I haven't gone through or ways that I wouldn't necessarily solve my problems. Just listening to you offer other aspects, offer other perspectives on how to look at what life deals to you is something I think we all need, because it makes me think, okay, how can I look at my situation differently? Maybe not in the exact same way that you are, or with the exact same situation, you know, but, like, how can I change how I'm looking at this? Because we all get stuck in ruts and, like, ways of thinking.
Yes.
And we literally have to have other people as examples on how to get out of some of those grooves. And they're not always bad grooves, but you can't solve different problems with the same equation every time it comes up, because all problems are different. You can't use the same equation every time. And so listening to you have, if you will, other equations on how to solve these different problems, it helps me and other people I know who listen to your podcast think broader, I guess. You know, it's the intellectual side. The intellectuals unite, you know?
Yes.
It's very refreshing, because you don't, listening to you, there are so many people that just spew garbage and, like, feely goodness, you know, the emotion part of it. And it's like, you have emotion, you talk about emotion, but you don't let your emotions dictate to you or you don't let them make your life decisions. And it's just very refreshing, especially hearing another female talk like that, because I have a lot of, I mean, I was pretty much I was raised by a tomboy and men. Like, that was what I was raised by. And
same. Are you kidding me? I have one female cousin out of my whole generation of my family. The rest of them were dudes. So I was just surrounded by males all the time. So it blows my mind sometimes that I'm like, as emotionally intelligent as I am, because I'm like, none of these men know anything sometimes. Nothing against my family, because I know a couple of my cousins do listen to this, but nothing against you, but it just, like, how?
Well, and yeah, that's the thing. I actually find male advice a lot more helpful than traditional female advice, just because of how my brain works half the time. But also, they're a little bit more, like, less emotion based, I guess.
Yeah.
And more like logical based. Like, I don't want to get myself in trouble saying that, but I will say it is very, very nice hearing another girl talk. You know, I mean, you're very much, you're a beautiful woman. Okay, you're a beautiful woman. And it's just nice to hear that kind of thing coming out of your mouth. So I just want to say a huge compliments to you. Take it. Okay, take it.
I know, I'm nice. Like cringing over here because I'm not.
I can see that. And I live for the cringe, so I'm trying to like restrain myself, but I'm also letting myself go a little bit. Okay?
You totally are. But it's fine.
Sorry.
And no apologies needed.
I can move on to our next question if you'd like, so that you can stop cringing.
Okay. I can get a break from my cringe, because I'm sure after this answer, you're also gonna cringe me up some more.
I am. I'm gonna just dump the compliments on you. You are going to be baptized, and you will be in full cringe. All right.
Okay.
So, what do you find to be the most difficult aspect of creating a podcast episode?
Sometimes what to talk about, or not what to talk about, but even just how I can prolong what I'm talking about. Because when you try to write something, you can write a lot, but then once you read it out loud, it doesn't seem like a lot of writing. So trying to expand on what I've already written down with like my ideas, like, okay, I want to see this, and this is a really good line, I want to make sure that's in there, and to make it last at least 15 minutes is probably the most difficult thing for me, because when sometimes I write a script, sometimes I want, I do different, I guess, like approaches to my podcast. So I try different things to see kind of what works best for me. And for the ones that I script write, I get these really clever one-liners that I'm like, ooh, like that's a good statement. And then I have to make sure I fill however long I want to talk, 12 to 15 minutes, with like a good substance of stuff. So that way it all makes sense and it all kind of goes with my overarching topic. So I would probably say either figure out what I'm going to talk about to begin with is the first difficult aspect, and also how to make it last for a podcast episode, because I don't want to just have these like 5 to 10 really good one-liners and then the podcast only be like 2 minutes long. Like, that's not fair to you guys. So, but that's also the challenge that I want. I'm like, okay, you got the 5 bullet points you want, make it count, basically. And so my poor husband has to listen to me read those scripts like so many times during a month. And I'm like, okay, well, how does this sound? And I'll always like start from the top. And sometimes I'll be nice and I'm like, okay, I just need you to like figure out this paragraph. So I'll like read 3 of them. I'm like, does that fit? And he goes, yes. So he's definitely my champion and my biggest cheerleader. And he definitely puts up with me reading the same thing all month long. And then he's like, okay, and then we have the next one.
That's so good that he's like that with you, though. Everybody needs their sounding board, if you will, and I love that he is that for you.
He's great.
If he wasn't your partner in crime and wasn't supporting you like he is, I would go over there and have a chat with him, because you absolutely deserve somebody that does that for you. And I hope
And your husband's lucky that he supports you the way you do. Otherwise, I'd be going down there and we'd be having a conversation.
Well, he very much supports me, but like, I see like what your husband does for you, and I'm like, I hope I'm like that for my husband, where like I'm his sounding board, because he has his own things, you know, that he likes to do and he needs help with, and I'm like, you know, I want to be what he is for me, you know, to him.
Same. I want to do the same thing for my husband. I'm like, you're so amazing. He's easily the best person I know. So I try to be, well, I'm not the best person he knows, because I'm simultaneously the nicest and meanest person he knows. So
hey, I can attest to that.
So, but I'm just like, you're such a better person than I am. He goes, in some aspects, yes, but you're a better person than me in others. I'm like, okay, we can just agree at that.
Sometimes you have to be mean, though.
Yeah.
And if you're not mean, you can't make it through life. You have to be nice too, of course. Like, you need both.
Certain things I'm just not interested in. And he's such a nice person that perfect example. We were coming home from work and we park in this parking structure that has signs everywhere that say pay inside, cannot pay at terminal to exit. It's everywhere. It's in the mall that we work next to. It's literally everywhere as soon as you pull in and stuff like that. Even on the ticket itself, I'm pretty sure it says pay inside. So this car pulls up to us and she rolls down her window and she goes, "Hi, do you know where I can pay?" And if she would have just looked to her left, she would have saw a giant sign that says pay inside. My husband, being the nice person that he is, goes, "Oh yeah, there's one right inside here. If you want to just park over there and walk in there, you can totally pay." I just kept walking. And he catches up to me and he looks at me and he goes, "You didn't even take a breath." And I said, "No, because I wasn't going to say anything." I'm like, she can figure it out. She's a grown adult. If she reads, she'll have her answer.
Oh. But see, I don't judge you for that, okay? And your husband did the right thing, you know? But like...
That's how he's different than me and I'm different than him.
I mean, what is the right thing to do? Probably what he did.
Then...
What is the right way to think? Probably how you were thinking. I'm sure he was thinking the same thing too. Like, oh my God, like, just read. But, you know, what if she's blind? You know, what if...
Then she shouldn't be driving.
Exactly. Okay, I used to work at an optometrist place, and you would be shocked at the people that came in for prescriptions. Like, they needed glasses, and they weren't wearing them when they came in, and they drive themselves there, and they left. They were legally blind. You were raising your hand. You were guilty of this.
Okay, I'm not legally blind, but okay, first of all, when I figured out I needed glasses, I was in my hometown where I knew every single street. I knew what freeways I needed to get on to get home and what direction. I could figure that place out without a GPS. So I didn't need to see the street signs because I knew exactly where I was. So it wasn't until we moved and I was in a completely different surrounding and I go, oh, I need to actually read street signs. So I then made the conscious decision to go get my eyes checked because I knew I needed a prescription. But before I got to my appointment, I needed to get a license for the state I was living in order to register my car. And we did the eye test and she looked at me and she goes, "You need glasses." I said, "I'm well aware of this. I have an appointment next month. Relax." She's like, "No, you are now going to have a restriction on your license that says you cannot drive if you do not have these glasses on." I was like, fine.
See, and if there were signs posted of where to pay for parking that were like new, would you be able to read those signs?
Yeah, I'm nearsighted and they were printed big enough that I could read it.
All right.
I also refuse to talk to people if I'm out.
Okay. That's true.
So I would have figured it out.
How dumb you are. Nobody would know how dumb you are because you're not asking, "Hey, where's the nearest bathroom?" And you're like surrounded by porta potties.
Exactly.
All right.
Okay, I'm derailing you again.
You are. That's okay, though. You're allowed to. Because this is the crazy train. And the crazy train has no rails. Do you have any habits or resources that you rely on when you feel emotionally down or stuck in a creative block to help you push through and record with passion once again?
Ooh. I don't think I've had any of those yet, just because with this only being my 7th episode, I've kind of haven't.
You're riding that high still.
I'm riding that new-ish high still, so I haven't had to have any real challenges when it comes to the podcast itself. But just in life, if I'm really kind of emotionally down, it kind of depends on what's making me feel down and just kind of what I need to do. So sometimes I just have to look at my husband and go, I need an air mattress day. And he'll blow up the air mattress in the living room and get it all nice cozy for me with a bunch of blankets and stuff. And I'll just lay there and watch movies. He built a fort for me one time because I was just like, I need a fort. And he was like, okay. And he built a fort in our living room. And
that's so adorable. I'm gonna freak the fuck out right now.
it was a really bitchin' fort too. And I was so excited. And I was like, can you come hang out with me in my fort? And he goes, sure. So we watched a movie.
Give me a second. Fucking precious. I live for this shit. Stop. Okay, I'm good. Continue with your fucking adorable stories. God damn it.
You asked.
I did, and I love it. Oh, it's just...
Sometimes I just need to cry. I'll just look at my husband and I go, and he can normally tell before I will, and he just goes, come here. And like, I'll just ask for a hug and he'll just hug me and I'll just start breaking down crying. He goes, just get it out. And he'll let me cry for as long as I need to. And he listens if I ever need to talk. And it's just basically, if I'm ever feeling a certain type of way, I just go to my husband and he will somehow fix me. But
so fucking adorable. Can't.
Sometimes I just have to write. I'm a big fan of writing letters to people just to say what you got to say, even if there's no return address. So if like a person's really bothering me or like a falling out that I've had with somebody and I feel like I needed to say some more, I'll sit there and I'll write out a letter to somebody. And sometimes I'll mail it. Sometimes I'll burn it. It just kind of depends on the situation. If I want them to really know what I'm saying, or if I just need to get it out for myself, it really just depends. And luckily I have those tools in my toolbox. So I know kind of how to assess my emotions. I'm like, okay, I'm feeling a little bit more of, I got some shit to say. So someone's going to hear it or nobody's going to hear it. And I'll just write, or sometimes the world's too much and I just need to cry, and then I cry. Sometimes I just need to take a really hot shower and blast music and just cry in a cathartic way in the bathroom with my music surrounding me. So it really depends on what I feel like I need.
So I have a question that came up while you were saying that.
Okay.
So I was thinking while you were talking, you seem to know the power of words.
Yes.
And you're gifted with them, obviously, because of how you're able to write and speak. You went to school for journalism, is that correct?
Yes.
So while you were in school, well, I guess first, when you went to college, did you know that you were going for journalism, or did you just figure out while you're in college, okay, I want to major in this? Or was it something you knew that you were going to do going in?
So when I originally I transferred to a university after I finished community college. I went into university with the idea that I wanted to be a music journalist. I thoroughly enjoy going to concerts. Lady Eagle.
You thoroughly enjoy going to concerts?
But behind me, I have a corkboard that is nothing but concert tickets, movie tickets, hockey game tickets, just any tickets that I've ever gotten ever. I just stick on that board, and majority of it is concert tickets. So I was like, I really enjoy going to concerts. I really enjoy like music, and I'm pretty good at writing. So just be a music journalist, because if the saying goes, if you do something you love, then you'll never work a day in your life.
Exactly.
So that was my mindset going into university. At the second year in, I was really getting into like the critical like journalism side of stuff, and I just went, I don't want to fucking do that anymore. And I was like, but I'm too deep in to quit. So then I went to my advisor and I was like, because I was thinking about making a shift to public relations, because with my school and how the degrees were working, you had your main degree, which mine was communication, and then you have emphasis. So it'll be like the specialty type, like kind of degree. So my current degree, and the one that I ended up finishing, is communication with the emphasis in multimedia journalism. And then there's also one for PR, and there is 2 different other ones that I can't remember off the top of my head. But I went to my advisor and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about making a switch to PR. What's that going to look like class-wise? And he was like, well, normally PR firms will hire journalists before they'll hire a different PR person, because they just like the way that journalists write, and they can, do things very diplomatically and different. So if you stick with your journalism degree, you can do both. Whereas if you get the PR degree, you're just going to be only able to do PR. So I was like, okay. So I was like, I'll finish the degree, but hitting puberty over here. But
Get through it.
As I was finishing out my degree, I knew for a fact, I was like, I'm not doing journalism. I'm never doing that again. I had to be on my school newspaper for 2 semesters, and I hated every single second of it. I despised it. I was ready to quit every other week. My husband can contest to this because he had to listen to me complaining about it. But that's when I think the idea for a motivational speaker came into play. I was like, okay. Because after I had finished my degree, I'd already finished therapy as well, and I was ready for like this next big thing, but I just didn't know how to start it. So I knew I was moving after I graduated. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to look for anything in the state that I live in, because I'm going to literally be leaving right after I graduate. So there's no point in me trying to find a job right out of college. So I moved, started working at the place I'm working at currently, just so that way I can have a paycheck, just to have the money coming in. And then I was like, I really want to do this motivational speaking thing. I found like a company that specialized in it, and like they taught courses on it, and they have like a really high success rate. Called them, had a meeting, figured out it was going to be a bunch of money that I didn't have. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll think about it. And I was like, well, that's backdoor until I can get that money. And then I was like, I have a podcast idea, so why not hone your craft and figure out what you're really good at and what, So that's kind of how this all started.
That's awesome.
Full circle moment.
I love that you like music so much, because I mean, music is words and then music notes, if you will. So I love that you love the whole aspect of words. It's not just like journalism and everything, but it's music too. I love it.
Yeah, but I have a really hard time with poetry. You would think I'd be really good at poetry, but that was always the one thing that I struggled with. Whenever I was in an English class, they were like, we're doing poetry. And I was like, fuck me. I hated it.
Is it like the rhyming aspect, or?
It wasn't really the rhyming aspect, but it was also like having a word that had like 3 different meanings, and it changed like how everything else, like it was just the like the layers to poetry that I was like, I can't. But I think now if I were try to read poetry, I might be able to get it better. But that was the one thing I always struggled with, which I think is a bit ironic.
I feel like poetry is music without notes.
Yeah, so you would think I'd be really good at it, but I despised it. I sucked at it.
But maybe it's the fact that it's like the absence of the music part,
Maybe, but
I mean,
but I'm
I
also not a
understand,
musician.
because if someone asked me, like, is poetry music, I would say no, because even though they have like similar things, and you can definitely make poems into songs, they're still completely different.
But then if you think about it, you can make like not a song, well, obviously, but like you can make a sound in like a musical aspect with a poem, because if you have like if you start everything with the same consonant, it like creates a certain sound, and I can see how it can be. I totally got sidetracked by what we were talking about.
Squirrel.
It was there and then it left.
I'm sorry.
I think it's more me than you, but I could see it being music. That's what we were talking about.
Yes. It has similarities, but it's also very different.
Yes.
In a lot of ways. And it depends on the kind of poetry,
Yes.
So my next question for you, if you're ready to move on.
Okay, yes.
Where would you like to see your podcast journey or business take you within the next year or two?
I really hope within the next year or two, I can start actually making some money off the podcast. Not, in like a greedy way, but as to where I can start like actually doing this full time and not have to work a day job or a constant job, quote unquote. And I would like to be able to actually have the business side of it established where I can start making an income off it.
I don't think that's a bad thing to say at all, because you're offering entertainment and information to people that's quality, and it's not horrible or greedy to ask to make an income off of that, because that's what you do at a grocery store. You sell goods, people pay you for food. Like, why not pay for food? Thought food, like, so no,
thought
totally
food.
Not,
I love that.
Thought food, totally not. As an artist, like, I've seen a lot of people, and I've met a lot of people that expect you to give stuff out for free, especially if you enjoy making people happy. Well, you just like to make people happy. Why do you feel the need to make money? That's not fair. Like,
because I also want to be happy.
Yeah, like a farmer loves to farm, but he also needs to make money. Yeah. And it's like, if you're good at something and want to offer goods and services to people, it's not greedy to ask for money. And if you make money, great. But if you don't, keep going. Like, keep trying. Like, you'll meet the people that appreciate you and want to give to you. So I believe in you. I think you'll definitely, I don't know if you'll start making a living at it in a year, but I will definitely root for that.
I don't think so either, realistically, for myself. I mean, if it wants to happen, that's great. I'm not going to object at all. But if it was even just to have like just the business side of it a little bit more like established, I would really like that. I would also hope that maybe in like 2 years, I'd be able to travel a little bit because of the podcast, and just to, meet somebody or some people that are interested in what I have to say and what I want to talk about and stuff like that. I think that'd be really cool, but I don't think it's realistically going to happen.
Hey, but you need those goals set. I think those are awesome goals, and I don't think that they're not achievable. Like, Yeah, so
but maybe just not in 2 years, or maybe in a year and a half. Who fucking knows?
Well, and you never know. You could have something that just like goes viral for some reason. You never know with the internet.
Yeah, like your thigh touch or comic strip.
Oh my god. Yeah. I mean, I didn't get famous or rich off of it, but it certainly went viral. That was hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, you never know. Like, that did get me a lot of traffic, and it did get me like, I mean, okay, it did boost me quite a bit in patrons for a little while. But yeah, you never know when that will happen to you. But you're doing the right thing by staying consistent. And if you stay consistent, that will eventually happen if you're producing quality stuff. And so I think you're doing all the right things. And I'm very excited for you.
Oh, thanks. I'm excited for you too.
Thanks.
Any more questions for me?
Not at this time. However, as you know, we continue to talk, a few of my pop into my brain. I did have one actually that left my brain.
Oh damn!
We were
do you remember?
talking.
Do you remember what I was talking about?
I think it was like we were still talking about music, but the question was floating around. I was waiting for the right time to ask it because I wanted us to wrap up, and then by the time we wrapped up, it left.
Damn.
Let me think for just a second.
Okay.
Because it had to do with.
Was it before or after the poetry?
It was when you said that you actually didn't. You're still like excited. You haven't had like a down or stuck in a block yet, and that makes sense to me because you showed me all the content that you have planned, which is very exciting.
I don't know if it's planned. Maybe it's very loosely planned, but it's definitely an idea that needs some expanding on.
Yeah. So it had something to do with that aspect where, because you said you didn't have, regarding your business yet, like emotionally down or a block, which is fabulous, especially because you've been doing this for how long now?
This would be my 8th month, technically my 8th episode, yeah.
Yeah, I know you do one episode a month, so it's not like you're pumping out a ton of content, but you're still doing it consistently, and 8 months is almost a year.
Yeah, I was looking at a calendar like for next month just to get like an idea for bills and stuff, and I actually came to the anniversary date of when I was like, no, Bitch Fed podcast is starting today. So even though I didn't release an episode for a couple more months, I was like, no, this is an established thing right now.
Yeah.
So that's coming up next month, which is kind of cool.
I did have another question just pop in my head. You said you wanted to like travel and interview other people. What kinds of people, ideally, would you like to have on your podcast as guests on a regular basis? Or are you wanting to have guests on a regular basis? Is this something that you want to have mostly you talking and then you have like a special guest every now and then, or what is it looking like?
As of right now, I think it's going to be more just me talking, but I definitely have some people in mind that I want to bring on because I think we'd have really good conversations. There's some things that I would want to know more about, and I'm sure there's stuff that they would want to know more about. So I was like, yeah, we can have people on, and if like we're talking like celebrity wise, if I can get like 3 celebrities that I could talk to, I could bring on my podcast, I would probably say Jacoby Shaddix from Papa Roach, because I have loved that band for so many years. I see them anytime they're in the state that I reside in, and I look at my husband and I go, they're here, and he goes, I know, we'll go.
That's awesome.
So I would love to talk to him, and he's someone that I admire and I look up to, and I think he's just such an incredible human being, and I would love to have him. Who else?
I mean, if you could get a celebrity on,
yeah,
your podcast would like blow the fuck up.
I know. Awesome. But even if it's like years from now, that if that ever happened, I would just be like, this is a good day. I don't know. Recently, I'm like, if I could talk to Hollywood Undead, I would love that.
Yeah.
I also love Hollywood Undead. So I was like, to have a conversation with even just 2 of those guys would be so much fun.
Yeah. What would you ask them? What would be like your first question that you'd want?
I don't.
You want them on? You better have some questions.
I know, but I know it's not gonna. I know it's not gonna be like tomorrow. So I definitely have some time to figure it out. But I'm sure if I looked into it, I could find the answer to this question. But if they were on right this second, I would like explain, or I want to know how the decision for Danny joining the group kind of came to be. Because Danny wasn't originally in the band when it formed, and he came in a couple album cycles later. So I'm like, what, like, did you know Danny beforehand? Did you like hear him sing and really liked the voice that he brought? Because Hollywood Undead, there's like 6 different singers, so they have a very different kind of sound. So I'm like, but they always had like the signature like singer guy, which was Deuce, but he left, and then Danny came in, and I like Danny more than Deuce. But I was just like, yeah, how did that decision come to be?
Okay.
That's what I would ask them.
Those are good questions. So my next question for you was on the tip of my tongue.
You need to start just writing them down.
Well, so I wrote them down like at the beginning, and I knew there would be more, but like I didn't want you to hear me like typing over here because my keyboard's loud AF, and
You got those
I didn't want
crinkly.
Yeah, you hear that? Yeah, I can't be quiet. Like if I get up, like if I have like a sudden art epiphany, you know, and I get up in the middle of the night, you know, my husband's waking up to this. Comes in the worker, what you doing, babe? Nothing.
Nothing. Don't worry about it. Just go back to bed.
Oh God, I'm so ashamed for now that I can't remember. It had to do with the future of your podcast, and I did have one more question. Damn it! Oh. This is the importance, ladies and gentlemen, of words, because you don't write them down, you will forget them.
Yes.
So
yes, absolutely.
Or if you don't record them, they will be forgotten. Oh, I remember. This is like this, I feel like Dory from Finding Nemo.
Yes.
Yeah, oh fuck, I just forgot.
No, come back. Come back,
okay.
Little.
Oh, there it is. Okay, so it comes back to the power of words. Obviously you understand that words have a huge impact on people and can change their lives. And this is something that I think is practiced when you do podcasts, when you writing, that sort of thing. And it preserves, you know, history. It preserves people. It lets people's legacy continue on.
Yeah.
And same thing for podcasts and stuff, because we have recordings now. And with the way technology is, I mean, unless there's like an EMP or something that goes off and destroys everything that's ever been recorded, we're okay. Like we'll have
Knock
it
on
for,
wood.
Yeah. We have recordings, we have books, you know, we have these things that have preserved words. And is that something that you practice or have had to practice when it comes to how you conduct yourself, how you conduct your relationships? Do you try and choose your words carefully, or and your conversations? Do you try to have productive conversations while knowing the power of words, or like how has words and using them shaped your life? Because you've told me before that you haven't always used words in helpful manners. So I guess that is my question for you. How do you use in your personal life the power of words, and how have they shaped?
That's such a good question. I don't think I've ever been asked this question in my entire life.
It's a loaded question, and it's kind of a bunch of questions in one.
So it really just kind of comes down, like the simplest answer is it comes down to the person I'm talking to. And it comes down to the relationship I have with them. If I don't have one at all, if it's a fleeting one, it's already, the bridge already looks like it's going to break. It kind of all depends on the situation, the person, stuff like that. And I have noticed something recently within like the last couple years, probably towards the tail end of when I was in college, but I don't small talk. Like I call it pointless conversation, where you're just talking just to talk. You're not really like, oh, how's the weather? Like how was your weekend? And well, depending on the people, I do genuinely care about what they did for their weekend. But if that's like the big question that you're asking me, and we don't have a normal repertoire of like a connection kind of thing. But it just, I don't like small talk. If I don't want to talk to you and you're making me talk to you, I don't like small talk. I realized that over the last couple of years, because when I was in college, I don't have any friends from college. And I was in college for like 6 years. I don't have a single friend from college because I just showed up, went to school like I was going to work, and then I went home. And I normally had to travel for school, so I wasn't around my campus all that much. So
College friends won't help you bury the dead body.
and sometimes they will. It all depends on the person. But just
If you've had more than just the brief conversations, yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So I was just like, yeah, I'm not really a small talk person. And my husband kind of, that's when he says that I'm being really cold. He's like, I could just be like the coldest person he knows, because if I don't want to talk to you, but you're making me have a conversation, I'm going to make sure it's the shortest conversation we ever have.
I love that.
And
as an introvert, I appreciate it.
I'm also very much an introvert. And if you get to see my extroverted side, then, good for you, because not a lot of people see that. So if you're making the introverted side have a conversation, I'm not interested. We're not going to have a deep conversation. I'm not interested. I don't want you to be interested. So I'm just going to have the quick conversation and then be done with it. And I sometimes do that to not the right people. Like, for example, we were at our jobs and a really important person was in site visiting, and she's like my husband's boss's boss, but she isn't in any pecking order when it comes to me. And some things are going wrong with our work, and I was already off the clock, so I didn't have to care about it. And she asked me like, oh, like, what do you think about all this? And I just looked up from my phone, looked around, I said, oh, I'm off the clock. Like, I don't have to worry about any of this. And then went back down to my phone.
I love it.
And
did you realize who she was?
I knew exactly who she was.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And so she awkwardly laughed and then looked at my husband and then just walked away. And my husband goes, babe. Mm-hmm. And I go, what? He goes, she's on the yacht. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, she's not my boss. I don't have to impress her. I don't care. He's like, how can you do that? So I don't always do it to the right people, but it's just something that I've learned about myself. I don't like having conversations if I don't want to have them. And it's also, I know what words will come out with different emotions. I've been able to make that connection within myself. So I know if my temper is getting really heated and it's really escalating, I know exactly what person's going to come out and what kind of word she's going to say. And I would never want to do that to like my husband or you or like people that I'm very fond of in my life. So I do realize that I'm like, okay, just because you say something in the heat of the moment and out of a fit of anger, no amount of I'm sorry's is going to take those words out of the other person's head.
When did you realize that? Was that something that you always knew, or?
I think it's actually something my dad told me. And I think it was like a random piece, like a one-off piece of advice. And he was just like, just remember, like, if you say something in the heat of the moment, even though if you didn't mean it, you can never take those words back. So I was like, okay, just because I'm mad doesn't give me the right to go for the kill shot with somebody like my husband, because he doesn't deserve to have that nastiness thrown at him just because I'm mad and we're in an argument and I want to win. So I was like, okay, he's someone I genuinely care about. I'm going to make sure I do whatever I can so that other person doesn't come out and meets my husband.
Yeah, I wish more people practice that.
It is definitely a very hard skill. And I still have moments where if I'm just genuinely frustrated, a bunch of things are going to come out of my mouth, and I mean every single one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like that, though, words can definitely ruin things and break things. You know,
Yes.
they also have the ability to uplift and heal and bring positivity. And I know you're aware of that too. So it's very cool to see you using them in that way when you have the potential to use them in the opposite.
Yeah, because I also just feel like we already are, like, so many bad things are shoved at us on a daily basis, like with social media, with like the current media on like TV, like with so many different accesses to complete strangers we have at the tips of our fingers. A lot of it's negative. And negativity is, if it's something that's just constantly around you, it's so exhausting, it's so draining that you should be able to have also the positivity. And I think it's important, if you're going to put something out there for such a broad audience as literally everybody that owns a computer or a cell phone and has connection to the internet, that's a lot of somebody's.
Yeah.
So if you're going to have somebody listen to you, then make it like good and like to better something, not just your own ego.
Right. And not be, like empty positivity. That's something else too. Like, people need the truth nowadays. They need facts, and they need, what's the word I'm looking for? Just people being genuine.
Authentic.
Yes, thank you. An authentic person. They need the truth. They need authentic people. And I think you're very much that, and you're refreshing. So kind of bringing it full circle. Not only do I feel like you have the power of words and understand them, but it's the fact that you're authentic as well, and you're bringing to the table truths and things that people can take home, and it's of substance. There's just so much garbage out there, so much garbage podcasts that they may say a lot of words, but there's nothing to take home. It's just empty, and you're done listening to it, and you're like, I don't even remember anything that was said. It's just like empty words, like they mean nothing, or it's just all foo-foo stuff. You know what I'm talking about? Like, and so it's just refreshing to listen to the kind of podcast that you have, where it seems like you understand that aspect of, you're here to inform, at the same time being positive and bringing truth.
Oh, thanks. Now it's your turn to pay me all the compliments.
Yeah, see, I'm dumping more compliments on you.
But I also think that's such a perfect stopping point for our episode. And I had such a great time having you on the podcast, Lady Eagle. This has been so great.
Thank you, April, for having me on here. I've had a lot of fun, but I'm not surprised because we jive. No, seriously, thank you.
Oh, yes. And I meant to do this at the beginning, totally forgot until right now. But I also want to give another shout out to my Michigan follower for sending me another text message last month. Super excited. Loved it. Keep them coming. I will read every single one of them. If you want to send me a text message, you can find a link in the bottom, in the description, show notes, whatever you want to call it. And if you're on your mobile phone listening to the podcast on any podcasting site, you can just hit that link and you'll be able to text me. With all of that being said, and so all the negative voices in your head, bitch bet, I'll see you guys next month. Thanks so much for listening. Until we talk again next time.